Matthew, this is it's one of my favorite topics, influencers, because I think it's just so important in everybody's lives. And one of my first influencers was my grandfather. Him, my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, they emigrated from Kyiv, Ukraine, way, way, way back to Canada. And I grew up in Montreal. And when I was about 5 years old, my grandfather used to take me for walks in the park. And he spoke to everybody, which is probably the DNA that I got because of that. And one day I asked him, I called him Zeta, how do you know all these people? Because he knew everybody, it seemed. And he said, well, and I remember him pointing. He said, you see that guy over there that's coming here? One day I looked at him and I smiled at him, and he looked up and smiled at me. And then he came over, we started talking, and now we're great friends. And when we did that, another person came over to us and smiled at us. And as a 5-year-old, I'm thinking, well, life's pretty simple. All I need to do the rest of my life is smile. I remember actually thinking that.
Yeah.
And then you get older, you start complicating things, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. Even a smile can influence somebody at the right time incredibly. So that's just one story, and we all get a lot of influencers over a period of time. Can you share two or three people that have been influential in your life?
Yeah, most definitely. I think the first and foremost would have to be my mom. She's my greatest influence in life. Sort of how you touched on with how he's able to attract a bunch of different people. Every person who's ever met my mom, like one of my friends who came over, or people after like a pool party, they're always like talk about how much they loved her and how like great an energy she had. And that's something I want to be in the future. And so she inspires me to like emotionally be that person that is highly regarded and also just super caring. And then I look at her from like a work perspective, and at the time she was able to break into sort of this corporate like finance role at a time when women like weren't really breaking in. And so she was able to break barriers, and that's something that impresses me amazingly, like amazing. And I just it's something that I want to do. I want to continue to like fight for a fair and better world. And so her work inspired me, and just who she is as a person, and the fact that she always supports me, came to all my events, all my like choir performances, all my sporting events, like anything that I had going on, even while she was working full time. I want to be, a parent who's there, and I want to be someone who's just in others' lives and they can think of fondly. So yeah, she's my greatest influence. I think another
That's awesome, bud.
one, thank you.
Yeah.
Another one has been a finance teacher actually. His name is James Bertram. He actually is an investment banking teacher, and I we sit on totally different sides politically of like of our world. But I remember one day I was taking his class, and after school I asked him a question sort of about like the ethical stuff about banking. And then this led to like over the next 2 years, and even still, we talk like I know a couple times every semester, just about what's happening in the world and like both of our different perspectives. And it's just nice to have like a respectful conversation from somebody, who has more experience than you, but also has a different perspective than you. It challenges you in the way you're still thinking. And I think honestly, like bridging that gap of people with different perspectives is going to be something that's so important to all of our futures. And so him sort of being in that role for me and someone that I can learn off of, and even I hope like challenge myself intellectually at some times. I hope I challenge him as well as he's challenging me. I think it's been really fruitful. And then that I guess the third inspiration that I found pretty cool is this lady Lina Kahn. She was the head of or she was the FTC chair during the Biden administration.
Hmm.
And I just saw her stuff from afar, but I just thought she was amazingly like impactful. When she was in law school, she wrote this paper about antitrust and Amazon, and it became this whole national thing. And she did it only when she was in law school. And it's the sort of impact like I want to have is like a young it inspires me that like I can actually do important things. And then I look at to where it led her as the FTC chair, and she was fighting against these grocery stores that wanted monopolies to raise prices, and she was trying to get rid of junk fees, and she was doing all this antitrust work and like, banning non-compete so people had more autonomy over where they choose their jobs. And so she was really focusing on like affordability and autonomy for like working people. And I just thought it was so cool. And you had these big corporate heads who were like pushing back against her, and she wasn't backing down at all, and she was just her own person. She was super steadfast in who she was, and that inspired me to like chase after what I want to do. And so those have been sort of three inspirations in my life and sort of what they brought.
Great choices. Holy cow. Yeah, it shows like when we're joking when you said I'm only 22, but look at her what she did in college, right? And
Yeah,
sometimes ideas can come. That's why every person, that's why I love what you're talking about and where your mindset's at. Every person has value, and you don't really know how much value that any one person may have. The infamous, they could have the cure to cancer. They could, who knows what. So, yeah, it's great. And I think the other thing we learn is we're influencing people ourselves all the time, and sometimes you don't even know you're influencing them. So we have a choice to be positive influencer or a negative influencer, just by how we talk to people or smile at somebody or say thank you even can make the difference. So thanks for being that too.
of course.